If it's happening in New York, New Jersey, or Long Island, hear about it with Joe Piscopo. Mornings, 6 to 10 on AM 970. The Answer.
Jen Kerns is a Republican strategist, contributor to The Hill, former spokesperson for the California Republican Party, and live in the studio. Jen, welcome. How you doing, Oklahoma girl? How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well.
I actually went out to Oklahoma as we started chatting about off mic. It's beautiful out there. It's America.
It really is God's country.
Yeah.
And I always jokingly say, when people look at my high school pictures, they said, "Did you grow up in New Jersey?" Because I have such big hair. So I feel there's a kindred Oklahoma Jersey thing going on.
You know what? My girlfriend was from Oklahoma at the time, had big hair at the time. Yeah, I guess that's a thing.
It was a thing.
Jersey and Oklahoma. Who knew? Together like that. Hey, how about you were the spokesperson for the California Republican Party? Was that when Mr. Schwarzenegger was in?
Yes.
Cool.
During and right after. Boy, tough slog.
Yeah.
You know, winning elections in blue states and swing states is, certainly not easy. But, hey, it can be done. We were able to win a lot of races out there. Prop 8. And, the battle over marriage that went all the way to the Supreme Court and a bunch of other gun control races.
Who put in the Prop 13 that I want to put in New Jersey? We need Prop 13 in Jersey, man, just to cap the property taxes.
It's funny. I was the PR gal for Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association,
Howard
the group
Jarvis,
that ran the Prop 13 campaign. Yes, I sure was.
Oh, my God. You were 2 years old, girl. Look at you. You were just a kid. God bless you. Where'd you go to school out there?
No, I went to University of Oklahoma,
Beautiful.
But we had always gone out to California. My dad was in the oil business growing up, and we had always traveled out to California.
Oil.
So as soon as I graduated,
oil from Oklahoma. You know who I miss? Rex Tillerson.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Oil, all about oil.
I don't think Trump misses Rex Tillerson.
No, I don't think so. Hey, so we've been hearing a lot about Alex Jones being banned from various platforms, even Roger Stone being banned from Twitter. What exactly is the criteria for being banned on these social media platforms, do you think, Jen?
The sad thing is there really is no criteria, and I think that is the frightening thing. You look at these companies that are operating in Silicon Valley, and this is a place I know a thing or two about, having lived and worked out there. I've actually lived and worked in Silicon Valley, around Palo Alto.
Wow.
Have been to a lot of, wine-swelling cocktail parties with these guys who think they're so fantastic because they invented this technology. And the technology is great, but you have here inherently liberal companies who are employing even more liberal and young millennial nerds who are drunk with power out there. So what you have at these companies like Twitter is a group of very young engineers, I'm talking 22, 23, 24, who have the ability to create an algorithm that is prejudiced against conservatives. You have very young engineers out there making decisions about who gets suspended from Twitter, who gets shadow banned, and who gets thrown in Twitter jail. Now, all of this might sound silly.
Jail?
Yeah.
They have Twitter jail?
They
like
do.
Monopoly?
They do. You might be in it and not
I think
even
I'm
know
in
it.
I can't get a blue verification, and I did everything.
Yeah.
They will not, and I've seen other people who you go, why is there not that check there?
Right.
I kind of wear that as a badge of honor.
I do too. Yeah, I do too.
But there is the Twitter jail's like, all right, let's.
There is, and this is what you hear President Trump talking about recently: is this need to have some sort of oversight into these technology companies. If you look at the major networks, NBC, ABC, CBS News, you at least have the FCC, who has some oversight of these folks and the decisions they make. You have these companies like Twitter and Facebook; they have absolutely zero oversight.
Now I feel really dumb. I mean, several times a day I feel really dumb. But you're absolutely right. Why didn't we think of that? Because that's exactly right. The FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, has no jurisdiction over anything on social media.
None. And look, I'm not a big regulator. I'm a free market gal all the way.
Yeah, I hear you.
The less regulation, the better. But when you look at what's going on here, and here we're entering into the next presidential election season already. People are already talking about 2020.
Yep.
We're in the throes of the 2018 midterm elections. And what you have here is actually a media outlet, basically, through Twitter or Facebook, that has the power to change an election. So if you look at this, you could say, well, gosh, I got banned from Twitter. Okay, so your article doesn't show up that day, your radio show doesn't show up that day. But if you're a candidate and you're supposed to be given equal time, airtime on these networks like yours
under
who are
jurisdiction of the
regulated
FCC.
by the FCC.
Yeah.
Then you as a candidate, if your opponent wants to come on the air,
brilliant.
you have to allow them to come on the air. Twitter, it's not the same. So you have a 22-year-old who's living in Silicon Valley, probably went to Stanford, whose parents paid for him to go to Stanford. He's now has a little bit of power under his belt. He's a nerd.
Yeah.
He's probably a super liberal, and he's got the power to determine if you, Joe Piscopo, show up on Twitter or not. And what they're doing, the shadow banning is really dangerous because they can actually arbitrarily go into your Twitter account overnight and eliminate 10,000 followers without you really knowing it, especially if you have a lot of followers.
But it happens to me. I could see also, and because I don't have a lot of followers, but we have a great little Twitter army because I don't allow any negativity. As soon as you're negative, boom, you're blocked.
Yeah.
And I don't care that it's small. It's dedicated, and we're kind of a lot of baby boomers who are just what's this Twitter thing these kids are using, and they go on it. But then I'll wake up and I'll lose 200, 300 followers.
It's no accident.
Wow.
It's no accident.
Wow.
So what they're doing, they can actually get rid of followers overnight in batches. So they can remove 10,000 followers from your follower list. They can also do what's called throttling you. So they can actually say, well, you know what? Joe Piscopo used the hashtag MAGA. Hashtag too many times
Make
yesterday.
America Great Again.
We don't think he should be using that, or we don't think he should be talking about the Second Amendment, or we don't think he should be talking about the Russia investigation. So we're going to throttle back his reach, and they will actually narrow where your tweets are going, so they can actually throttle that. And again, these are young kids deciding this arbitrarily with no oversight.
And Jack Dorsey is the head of Twitter, right? Was that his name? Yeah. And Dorsey said. He said, yeah, well, we do lean in that. I think it was with Brian Stelter at CNN. He goes, well, it's true. We do lean left.
Right.
I mean, there's the admission right there.
Right.
Lean left.
Lean left, yeah. And it's really interesting. If you look at their politics, they're pretty open about it. But again, there's no oversight of these guys. What do you do with this? I have a client out in San Francisco. She's actually representing a couple of Republican engineers who worked for Google, and they were talking in a break room, not even in a meeting at work. They were talking in a break room about how much they actually liked Donald Trump, and they got fired.
Really?
And they were some of the kids, some of the young 20-something kids who were responsible for Google's algorithm. And boy, if you're a conservative and you are working in one of those tech companies, Google, Facebook, Twitter, you are dead man walking.
That's scary.
Yeah,
so does
really
the president say, I want to put some jurisdiction on this? Because then he's going to seem like Big Brother. And he's going to seem like putting the government in charge.
Yeah.
But it does seem like, and me too, I'm like more libertarian than anything else. I don't want the government near me.
Yeah.
But in this case, maybe the government's needed, Jen, huh?
It might be. I know the FCC chair, Ajit Pai, is looking into this. I don't know if President Trump will go that far. What Trump has said so far is that he wants the free market to speak, but he wants people to be aware of this. And I think that's why he's using the bully pulpit to say, hey, look, if you're on one of these platforms and you're a conservative, you might not be being treated fairly.
Wow, that's scary.
Yeah.
And security clearance, before we let you go, Jen, taking the security clearance away from Brennan, we were talking about how scary Brennan is. Tell us the three things that you just told me off mic, if you'd be so kind, about Brennan, what he did during his tenure as head of the CIA.
Yeah, sure. When this issue first came up a few months ago, I actually wrote a long piece at The Hill that people can take a look at if they want. Brennan, as evil as I think that he is, and the weaponization of the security clearances and the intel that I think has happened, Brennan actually has a pretty checkered past in terms of his national security track record. And so I actually wonder why the guy had a security clearance in the first place. If you look at John Brennan's career, he had three major intelligence failures. The first one was when he was serving as the CIA station chief in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia in 1996. He missed, and the New York Times reported on this, he missed the telltale signs of the intelligence that led to the bombing of the Khobar Towers attack that killed 19 American servicemen and injured a couple hundred more. The second intelligence failure he had was allowing the underwear bomber, remember the so-called underwear bomber that boarded a Northwest Airlines jet over Christmas and almost took down the flight. He missed some key intelligence that everybody said was coming out of Yemen, was very easy to to get. And the New York Times in that case said that he had many missteps and intelligence failures.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then the third was he was actually the guy, the brilliant guy, wink, wink, that came up with the color-coded terror system after 9/11. So in 2003,
it was Brennan that came up with that?
Yeah, it was Brennan who came up with that. And remember when New York and D.C. went on lockdown in the holidays of 2003, and they had missiles pointed everywhere in D.C. Brennan was the guy who asked President George W. Bush to elevate it to an orange terror alert over the holidays and scared the bejesus out of everybody, much like they're doing with the Russia investigation. And it turned out that intelligence was faulty and that everyone was on high alert over Christmas for nothing. So he's had a pretty checkered past. And boy, if you look at the politicization of the intelligence briefings, it's very clear to me that the leaks were coming from John Brennan primarily.
Wow. What is he trying to hide before we let you go, Jen? I'm feeling he's trying to, because when you show bluster like that, go after the president, and he's constantly on television, this guy. Is he making a lot of money? Is Brennan getting paid for all this from CNN? I guess he's a paid contributor.
Yeah, he is. And that, I think, is inherently a problem, too. If you're a commentator and you're being paid by a network, you should also not then be able to go in and have a security clearance.
Bingo.
And be looking at,
Bingo.
And be basically still an employee of the United States federal government. I mean, that inherently is a conflict of interest. But the Democrats here are the masters of deflection. They have mastered this art of deflection so well. So you're right. The more somebody blusters, the more you think, what's going on with this guy?
Red flags.
And so you look into his background, you look at these 3 intelligence failures. He might be trying to overcompensate for those, I think. You also look at his track record in 1976, voting for the communist candidate for president.
What was with that, man?
You know, I think that tells you a little bit of where his heart is.
And
in terms of
he
his
experienced
politics.
this Hodge. How did he get in there? I mean, because you're not supposed to be in there.
You're not supposed
unless
to
you're
be
part
in
of the
the
community.
Hajj unless you're
part of that
in
community.
the Muslim community. You know, my brother lived overseas for 7 years. He lived in Doha, Qatar.
Yeah.
And so I've been over there during the Hajj and during Eid and all those, religious holidays. And it's true. It's very locked down. And so I'm not sure if he was there on an official capacity, just doing a site visit, or if that's his personal belief.
Scary
but he
dude.
certainly has shared a love for the Islamic community in a way that I think, is quite interesting.
Jen Kerns, Republican strategist, contributor to The Hill. If you go to Jen Kerns, Google Jen Kerns and check out The Hill, you'll see some great writings from this young gal, a former spokesperson for the California Republican Party. How great is Schwarzenegger, by the way?
Oh, great. I know he's your friend. When I saw your name pop up this morning, I said, I'm so excited to be with you.
Great
man.
Arnold is the best, man. We still idolize Arnold, man.
The best. And, it is true. What happens in California happens like 5 to 7 years before stuff happens nationally. Everything that President Trump is going through right now, Arnold Schwarzenegger already went through. The groping allegations, the Gloria Allred this.
You're right.
And guess what? It didn't go anywhere.
Yeah,
if you look, Gloria Allred said, just like Michael Avenatti said during the campaign, we're going to take this to court and we're going to sue until the victim is... Nothing ever happened. It's been 15 years since Schwarzenegger, since that happened to him. Never happened.
Thanks, Jen. Jen Kerns with Piscopo in the morning 7.
Everybody knows this guy. No, everybody knows he can do a radio show. Joe Piscopo. Mornings, 6 to 10 on AM 970. The Answer.